Professor Vidushi's biodata, can you add one slide?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, who is saying good morning?
Professor
Hello.
Jagdish Batra.
Is it Professor Batra?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Good morning to you.
Okay, welcome, Professor Batra. you're,
You're
you're
using mask, but I still could recognize your voice.
Ma'am, Dr. Dhawan has also joined.
Yes, yeah.
today, actually, yesterday all were warmed up, so now they are absolutely in time. And so we just, uh, so Samina, you can, um,
No problem. We'll move according to the schedule.
right,
I
sir.
just logged in so that you don't have to face any hitch later on because it took a long time yesterday. So that's it.
Huh. Yeah, right. I was also just trying to whether to join from link or directly from my account. So,
Yeah.
Samina. So,
Hi. Hello, everyone. This is R.K. Dhawan.
yes, sir.
Hello,
Good
Dhawan
morning.
sir.
Morning.
Namaste. Namaste. Pranam. Good morning. Sir,
Well,
कैसा
sir,
रहा?
good morning.
I think it's going very well. And today, Dr. Batra is giving us a lead. He begins this.
Oh, I'm your follower, sir, not giving the lead.
Uh, many people find some difficulty in opening this system because this is a bit tough,
Yeah, it's a little complicated.
quite complicated.
MS Teams actually gets you stuck up for checking your credibility again and again. So that's the main point of MS Teams.
You,
But actually,
yeah, sorry, you find the participants very suspicious, so you check them.
no. Actually, my moderator is quite young, so she's monitoring technical support. So what she's done that she feels that if more and more people will come, they will fill the feedback form, and then she has to provide with the certificates.
Okay.
So she restricts. But I've told her to please pass on. At least they can attend via YouTube.
Oh yes, that's right. That may be easier.
And actually, she changes our everyday link. So it's quite difficult to circulate the link every day to lots of people. I've
Ah,
told her
Mhm.
keep one link.
No, I didn't actually go by the link. Only thing is that accessed MS Teams through
Hmm.
my personal account, and then immediately, I got notification from your university, and I just clicked on it. So I was connected.
Yes, sir.
So, today it was so easy, but you never know.
Sometimes we get in a second connected without any hitch. But sometimes, like yesterday, how
Yesterday,
difficult for
yeah. Yes.
WhatsApp. He was really exhausted.
Yesterday, my problem was that, because my university work is also all done on this very platform.
All right.
So it was interfering actually. So when
Okay.
I click on that, so it would take me to university and there were meetings over there and I would get lost. So today I abstained from all that. I created a new account in my personal email ID. So that
Uh,
helped.
so, Professor Batra, you have given us such a short bio note of yours that I'm really missing something because if you have served 40 years, so you have not given us your previous 30 years data.
Oh God. I mean, that becomes very impracticable actually because if I look upon it, it's almost 25 pages, 30 pages. So naturally, I would
No,
like to look at that.
No, but
So
at
I
least like where were you previously before Jindal? We could have
yeah,
got something, because it improves the or it enhances the credibility or
I
previous,
think it's,
because
I think
see
it,
webinar is different, sir. Here we
mm,
have to show to people. uh, because you expands your circle, no, through webinars.
You want me to
Uh,
send you a little longer one, maybe how many
yeah,
words? 200 words?
at least you could, because it will be in our records, no, so it will be
Okay.
easier.
Okay, I'm mailing you a little longish one, not those all those pages, but
At
maybe
least
about two paragraphs. Two paragraphs I'll send.
100 words more at least.
Okay, fine. I'll do it.
Ma'am, Dr. Vidushi is not here.
She will come. She might be in class. She will come at 12 or 12:05. It was good on the part of Vidushi. Actually, she told me I
Ma'am,
like I
Mrs. Richard Dhawan ma'am is also here with us now.
okay. Just wait. Hello,
Hello, hi.
hi, Richa. Good morning. So, what's the time at your end?
Oh, it's 2:20 in the just after just after lunchtime.
Thank God. So you have. So have you had a comfortable lunch?
Oh, yeah, sort of. I was busy preparing and just with kids running around.
Mhm. So, are you are also professional or a freelancer?
Um, I would say I'm just a beginner. I don't know whether to call myself a professional yet, but yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, actually, what you have mentioned in your web page or website, you
yeah.
have actually means somewhere not focused on your, some other skills. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Indeed, one who's a writer is in documentation editing and everything, communication, it's a perfect. But like now, like all other you have not mentioned that you studied in probably in
Yes,
Sydney.
yes.
So what were your subjects kind there in Sydney?
My previous education has been completely different from creative writing or English literature. So in Sydney I did a master's in radiation therapy. It's a healthcare branch, so it's a cancer treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you can access then Tata's healthcare services that across India, because you are that air, because it's all done online. All Tata Care services, analytics work, data work, that's all done online probably.
Um, yeah.
Uh,
Not.
uh, just like Amazon reaching to audience, sorry, to
Uh-huh.
customers. So I think
But
Tata's.
I'm not into IT. I'm a health professional. So I was the therapist. So I was treating patients.
Oh
I
my
was.
God. So how come from English literature to therapist you turn into?
Oh, no, no, it was the other way around. So I did dentistry in India, and then I moved to Australia, and I did radiation therapy, a master's in radiation therapy. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was a little bit of a gap for maternity. I had two children, and
Mm-hmm.
because I was always interested in writing, so somehow it just somehow I had an epiphany one day that I have to be a writer. But yeah, I have been writing small pieces every now and then whenever I got a chance. But of course, because of my studies and um, other things in life, I haven't been able to focus as much as I wanted to. So,
You know why? It's a curiosity on my part, because yesterday one of
yeah,
the young scholar or speaker, she was
yeah.
asking me that what could be the possibilities of such, title of the book, or the what can be the author's, you
Yes.
know, background.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
So
Um,
she's listening you, she's there inside the MS team, and she's listening you,
okay.
and she's Priyanka Solanki.
Oh, hi. Hello, Miss Solanki. How are you?
Hello, ma'am. It's lovely to have you on this platform. And in fact, I'm going to talk about your book. I don't know how relatable I'm going to be to your thoughts.
No,
uh,
no. It's
Good
it's.
morning,
I'm
first
sure
of
it's
all.
been great. I'm
Yeah.
I just feel honored to be here today. Among all of you.
Actually, I could relate to your book more because I guess I'm in a scenario similar to yours. I've just taken
Oh,
literature, and I had earlier science subjects. So like I've just got into the literature subject, and I'm a
okay.
mother to two children. So I somehow found your book so interesting. I began reading actually so that I could participate in the webinar. But then as I read,
Wow.
found it so interesting that I really wish that I was chosen by ma'am to speak about it.
Oh, great, great. I'm so happy to hear that. So, are you when are you writing your book? Just
I
Ah, that's a good question. And because
yeah,
homemakers can write very well. They have a lot of time.
yeah. I know.
That's like too much to be expecting right now because in the same a similar thing that you said right now. I'm in between a kiosk, all children running around me, and so many things going on, and I'm still trying to, because I've recently found this interest in me that I want to go towards the literature. I don't know, somehow I'm loving to read for right now. I'll surely
Well,
begin. Let's see.
well, we'll be waiting.
Thank
And
you, Richa, for coming on board and say inspiring multidisciplinary skill and orientation, plus how to audit the time of the whole 24 hours. That's also should be your in your somewhere talk.
Well, it's been a really zigzag, I would say, journey from children to my laptop back to the children, picking up, dropping them. Like I'm juggling so many things at the moment, and I've been doing it since my son was born 6 years ago. So it's just but it just feels like a bit surreal that yeah, finally I have been able to do this. But yeah.
Yes. So, actually, these webinars basically have been intentionally taken up to not only involve creative writers but also such speakers or participants who can come across because they always teach language separately, communication theory separately, and
Yeah.
then they teach story or telling or story narration separately. So all are segmented, and finally the student who is to attain degree they are exceptions like Priyanka Solanki or the students coming from public and convent schools. They can
Mm,
still merge all these skills somewhere with their future exposure. But mostly like for the students coming from government schools especially,
yeah.
them for them the language application skill is absolutely a kind of a set uh, pattern, uh, like as if you're reading the chart. Now this mathematically they teach all the grammatical functional grammar, so that comes in the language application, mostly as a pedagogy in our system, education system. Then creative content, if you want to finish your course, if you want to finish up the things quickly, you just narrate the story and end up the chapter, and that's a one unit of the syllabus is over.
Mm-hmm.
So creative content is again a separate fragmented part. And then there is another side like communication. Now communication mostly happens bilingually, so naturally there is a less like one-to-one mentorship or coaching, in sense that there is no interaction or interpersonal communication. So there see all these things are absolutely separate. And by chance, our Central Board of Secondary Education in 1992 coordinated with British Council, but it is only with the students studying in India in Central Board Secondary Educations. They only know how to merge all these separate fragmented parts of English language uh, course, or you may say skills. But still, I've seen that in colleges and universities, suppose if the first year student studying English compulsory or general English subject, they just go for language application part very separately, even if they are belonging to law, to science, or to management, or to education side. For them, the language part is just learning part of speech and functionally structuring it and then completing something. Then story narration is absolutely different part. And last but the least, there is you may say learning spaces. Now learning spaces, they hardly get under a clue that how can they create learning spaces. So here, this is our objective of our webinar, that we have to understand that all these are absolutely embedded in one into each other, and they have to understand how you have to go through even your personal life, whatever routine you have to audit with type of whether you're learning Hindi or any other language or English language, you have to merge everything. Then only you can create some product of communication well through creative writing. So here, our speaker, Richard Dhawan, is a real epitome for our young participants across India, and even for all of us as faculty. So, Samina, could you just for five
Yes,
ten
ma'am.
minutes start from the beginning?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll introduce our speakers.
Yes, ma'am.
If you keep the slide on the screen regarding the bio data, I can read through the screen also the bio data.
Right, ma'am.
So Richard Dhawan is one of the wonderful uh, person who has achieved a lot in a young age, with all her sensitivity to keep a harmony in her personality, and all round development, so that she can not only be a figure who is resourcing to others with all her multidisciplinary skills, but also she's enriching her self realization aspect. So it's a wonderful part. We are going to listen to her through her talk on her book, because I know I can't make round rotis. Of course, I'm just introducing and welcoming these speakers. So I'm leaving most of the things for our Professor Jagdish Batra, who has accepted our kind invitation to address on this book, so that we can have better perspective and better outlook. That because the title of the book is so controversial. When my brochure circulated in my system, people were thinking, especially the customized conventional sort of people were thinking that what kind of book I have taken for uh, as a round table session, or as one of the prime you may say session, webinar session, to discuss. Because you customize society, if read the title, they would not go for the book. But somehow, coincidentally, one of the very aspiring scholar, Priyanka, initiated, and the moment she came in contact, she immediately ordered the book, and she purchased it, and in time she received it, and she enabled herself to at least send the abstract by email to me. I will be introducing to you now Dr. Jagdish Batra. He had been into long academic career with regard to Faculty of English Literature and Language for the last 40 years. He is professor and director of English Language Society, which is very much internationally acclaimed. I have myself attended at least 3 conferences of this English Language Society at OP Jindal Global University, located at Sonipat in Haryana. And the amazing part of his, literary taste is that he had never taken a back seat, whether it is his first innings of his professional life or second or the third, or his switching over to from one institution to say other institution. He had been promptly contributing to studies of English, and we can see on screen his area of specialization in English fiction, in which he has presented papers at many international conferences in Europe and Southeast Asia. Rotary Foundation awardee to USA, Dr. Batra has published 8 books, including T.S. Eliot, Deconstructive Reading. So the T.S. Eliot is 20th century writer and one of the famous controversial writer also, because his poetry, of course, do not give any kind of optimism, but construct a lot of rationalization with regard to modern culture and loss of religion in the culture. Then he also wrote another book, Rohinton Mystery. Of course, he's still there, very popular writer, and we congratulate Professor Batra to have taken. Samina, keep the slide of biodata. Samina, don't change biodata screen. So Rohinton Mystery, the 20th, also has been into his academic writing. A 21st century Indian novel in English is also one of his contribution in publication. Then next is New Approach to Literary Theory, Criticism and Post-Colonial Literature Today. These are one of the acclaimed, well-read, and well suggested books in the academic world. Samina, change the slide. I want to read further more about Professor Batra, because he has just sent me his more of CV on my request. I would just like to
I
focus
think
on.
we have had enough, ma'am. We have had enough, I think. No problem. Yeah.
No, at least I'll say ki currently where you are working in publication side, because many scholars ask me, as from research point of view, madam, please suggest some journals, research journals, where we can get our papers published. So I think even our moderator would be finding it useful. It is Dr. Batra is on the editorial boards of the journal Commonwealth Review and the Indo-American Review, and on the research panels of many universities. He writes poetries and other kind of writings also. And a very important thing is he has been a globe trotter also. He looks very serene, simple, modest, but he's a globe trotter, very good communicator. And then next, our speaker is Professor Dhawan. Uh, he's famous with his, surname, Professor Dhawan. It's so melodious to say Professor Dhawan. So we skip R.K. Dhawan. So Dr. R.K. Dhawan is from Delhi University, and he actually earlier been into to UK for his higher studies, and he completed his doctoral from UK Oxford University in 1979, and he was awarded a 5-week fellowship to visit Australia by Australian Literature Board, Sydney. He was selected by the British Council as a creative writer and sponsored his visit to Dhaka University, Bangladesh. He was a Shastri Fellow at Toronto University in 2008 for his project on some academic writing relating to literature and environment. And his important affiliation is again similar to Professor Batra. First is he's the editor in chief of the journal Commonwealth Review, and also there are many journals to which he is attached as an editor. And most important is he's been secretary of Australian Association for the Australian Studies. So our next the chairperson, I would say, sorry, I'm continuing with the Professor Dhawan's next slides biodata. He was president of Indian Association for Canadian Studies for 4 years. He was chairman of Pacific Asian Network of Canadian Studies for 2 years. He received Lifetime Award from Association for English Studies in India in 2017 at Nagpur University. Regarding his publications, if we talk about, it's so immensely acknowledged. And if we just I think we should give a standing ovation to him, or just greet him, congratulations, because his most of the 30 books out of his overall publication are available in the British Library London, which are written and edited by him. And currently he is president of Indian Society for Commonwealth Studies, with and brings out a UGC approved journal entitled the Commonwealth Review. I think Professor Vidushi has joined or not. I will introduce her later, because we are already 10 past.
Ma'am, she's joined.
Achha, she has joined, so let me introduce her also. So Dr. Vidushi Sharma, we are thankful and we welcome you on board as chairperson of today's book launch session regarding the book titled No, I Can't Make Round Rotis by Miss Richa Dhawan, Indo-Australian writer. Of course, she is there, you may say, Indian diaspora in Australia. And Professor Dr. Vidushi Sharma is in the Department of Communications, National Institute of Management, and New Delhi. The most important part of Professor Vidushi is that she is very good communicator, debater, and her rhetoric skills have been very much popularly recognized in Delhi, because she had been a very bright student at her university level or school level, always being awarded because of her educational brightness. So I'm going to invite now Professor Vidushi Sharma to take the lead first to have with your address as a chairperson.
Thank you so
Professor
much, Dr.
Vidushi Sharma.
Jayashree. Thank you once again for calling me today. And very good afternoon to esteemed panelists, Dr. Jayashree, Dr. R.K. Dhawan, Dr. Batra, Ms. Richa Dhawan, and all the young scholars present here today. I'm really thankful to the Department of English of Bhopal Nobles University for giving me this opportunity to chair the session of the book launch session of the book titled No, I Can't Make Round Rotis by Richa Dhawan. So it's a pleasure and privilege to be a part of this event, both. Especially, it's a great learning from esteemed panelists and academicians like Dr. R.K. Dhawan and Dr. Batra, because I have, literally, I have been reading his books, and then I have grown up as a student reading Dr. Dhawan's books. So it's a privilege to be here. So I was really happy to know about the book yesterday evening when I had a word with Dr. Jayashree, and the title itself, sounded very interesting to me. No, I can't make rotis, and I was immediately motivated to go through the abstract. At least I could not have the book, so I am ordering my copy today, definitely. But I found that the book is very interesting, and congratulations to Richa for this book. I would like to congratulate the author for writing such a bold book. It's a very good, bold attempt. And the all the stories, which are 13 stories of gut and grace, it depicts, trials and tribulations of women in urban India. Richa, who is a writer of Indian diaspora, who's born in India, received her education in Delhi and Sydney. Currently, she is in Singapore and she has devoted to full-time creative writing. It's really interesting to read what kind of stories are there in her book. So I just read three stories, presently speaking. Yesterday, when I picked up, I could not stop. I started with Nimbu Pani, then I went to those kinds of girls and the end of Carpe Diem. So all these stories, I would say, are very gripping, very engrossing, and truly captivating. Now, the reason why I liked all three of them is very simple. The language used by the author is unpretentious. It's easy to understand yet interesting. And there is a tinge of straightforwardness with the characters we see around us every day, especially the first two stories, the Nimbu Pani and those kinds of girls, which I read. They are women centric, while the last one I read, The End of Carpe Diem, is what Richa herself says, and I quote, is an epistle to my children, unquote. So Richa has fondly dedicated the story to her children Arjun and Misha, where, and I quote, 10 years hence, when you will be 15 and 13 respectively, this letter will serve as a memoir of a strange and unprecedented time in our lives. This was 2020 when coronavirus hit and locked down the entire world, unquote. And I really enjoyed reading the preface of the book, to be very specific. So I would like to quote a few lines from the preface, to endorse what I just mentioned. What is the book all about? The preface is very thought provoking, where she says, I quote, "This book is my first attempt at fiction and stems from my experiences as a girl, woman, mother, and prolific traveler. The 13 stories in this collection represent an amalgamation of experiences. Being a woman is still not easy, even in 2020. Through No, I Cannot Make Round Rotis, my innermost voice has been able to travel through the intricacies of language and vocabulary in story forms that I hope you will find interesting. Even though the stories are fictitious, many of you will be able to relate to them. Why? Because all of these are inspired by real events and experiences of a generation of women in urban India." Unquote. And then she talks about that why she writes. It's wonderful to read all this, which I actually read, and I find that I could not stop myself from ordering my a copy for myself today. So, in short, in nutshell, I would say that the book No, I Can't Make Rotis is a bold attempt by a woman writer, Richa Dhawan, who is very much an Indian, staying in Singapore, who is a millennial woman of Delhi. But she's trying to depict through her stories what we women every day are facing, especially in a metropolitan city, even today. And this is truly a bold attempt, and I congratulate Richa for this attempt. And all the best, Richa, for all your future endeavors. And we wish we could meet offline, but all the best and hoping to see you again. Thank you so much. Congratulations once again.
Thank you. Thank you so
That's
much.
all from my side. Yeah.
Professor Dhawan,
Yes,
sir,
please.
please, now I would like you to just extend kind invitation to your fellow colleague and the most likable person in your life, Dr. Jagdish Batra, to take on stage. Please, you address to him.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to all the participants this morning to a session on the release of Richa Dhawan's book, No, I Can't Make Round Rotis. And we had an excellent introduction to the book by our speaker, Vidushi. And now we have Dr. Jagdish Batra, a good friend of mine and a very eminent scholar. He is a versatile personality and very perceptive critic. And the comments that he's going to make and the introduction that he's going to give will be, I'm sure, a landmark for Richa Batra in her literary career. Over to Professor Jagdish Batra.
Thank you very much. Namaskar, everybody. Good morning. Uh, First of all, I must address Chairperson Professor Vidushi Sharma, then our host Dr. Jayashree Singh, the author being fated today, Richa Dhawan, my senior friend Professor R.K. Dhawan, anchor Samina Wagla, ladies and gentlemen. One of the most important things that has happened in this 21st century is the unparalleled expansion of the domain of Indian English fiction. I think it happened after Chetan Bhagat published his first book, 5 Point Someone. And after that, people have actually felt encouraged to write their stories. And I've been keeping track of all those novels which were written by Indian authors, whether settled here, in India, or abroad, since the year 2000. And my record shows that till date, some 1,400 novels have been published. That's, of course, wonderful proliferation. But more than that, it actually indicates that Indian authors who had been feeling hamstrung till Salman Rushdie appeared on the scene, they now feel emboldened. And Richa Dhawan's book is a wonderful addition to that ever-growing corpus that opens up. Every book, in fact, opens up a new vista. But this particular book has an entirely different take on the life of young women. Dr. Jayashree found the title little controversial, but if you look at the books these days by young people and their titles, like there's one, of course I love you till I find someone better. No, that's the title of a book, a novel, of course. And similarly, you were my crush till you said you loved me. Okay, then there is words worst, deleted, best boyfriend, and accidentally in love with him again. Now these types of titles, but certainly no title I have seen which began with the negative no. So the credit goes to Richa Dhawan for taking up this very, very catchy title. It's a very beautiful cover of the book also, which I have here. As we know, Richa Dhawan has been in Australia all along, and recently she shifted to Singapore. And by training, she is a doctor, but her debut collection of stories. This is a debut collection. No, I can't make around rotis projects her as a storyteller of substance, I must say. This compilation is a very masterly treatment of human feelings, strengths, and weaknesses, particularly of women. And these appeal straight to the heart as also to the mind. Friends, George Bernard Shaw didn't believe in the dictum art for art's sake. He believed in the dictum art for the sake of life. And so each one of these 13 stories also actually serves that end. It hits out at a melody, a psychological conditioning of an individual or a social problem. And she probes that problem in a very expert manner. My earlier speakers have talked about the story Nimbu Pani, in which the married lives of two diasporic Indian women in Australia have been compared. And over there, Nitya, who married her boyfriend, had an ego clash with the husband. And like Maya from Cry the Peacock, she also pushed her husband to his end. On the other hand, Reena has a helpful and accommodating husband. And there is also role reversal in their case because the husband is not so much interested in conducting business. Wife is. So they change their roles. That is actually what is expected of people in our times. We must not be sticking to old formulations and conventional practices. We must move with the times. So that is the message. And Richa's psychological foray into the mind of her characters, along with her powerful narration, that can easily win over the reader, I should say. There is this very poignant story, the tale of two sisters, and that underlines the importance of euthanasia, death by will. There is sibling rivalry which marks the lives of Ananya and Dr. Riddhi from an early age. And that is actually fueled by the parents also. The competition takes its toll on the younger Ananya because she gets pregnant at the age of 16. Then Dr. Riddhi comes to rescue, and friendship replaces that kind of competition. Later, the doctor herself becomes what we say quadriplegic. There is a problem with her spine, and she becomes crippled after stabbing incident. Now, Ananya comes to rescue. How? That's very painful thing actually that she does. And she is called upon to kill her own sister to relieve the sister from the excruciating pain. Now, this is a fantastic imagination, really, but something that gives a very potent message that euthanasia is required to relieve the persons from a situation out of which they cannot come out. Now, there is the current craze for social media, which forms the background of a story, Follow Me on Instagram. And that I feel is very, very interesting. Must, speak a bit about it. Maya, the protagonist, is not the perfect heroine of the novel, but she represents the majority of people rather than the minority of perfect and well chiseled and fair complexioned incredible insight and intellect, as the writer says. But then she's also what we say Kali, Choti, and Moti, short statured, dark, and to top it all, fat also. She's fed up with taunts from the people and wishes to commit suicide. Before that, while wandering the Connaught Place area of Delhi, she happens to meet Amol, her boyfriend from college days, and she's meeting him after 6 years now. So let me turn to the narration on page 33 here. Amol smiled and justified himself. I don't have a choice. What I was doing was actually clicking his photographs for Instagram. He says, I don't have a choice. This is strictly business. 95,000 followers don't care about my safety. They need entertainment. I'm hoping for 1 million followers soon. I don't know if you have seen my profile. My Instagram handle is Amol Vile. And the girl says, Maya says, I can imagine how hard it must be. Getting paid to post on social media could be such a pain. Probably should switch over to something less challenging, like the military and all. Maya shrugged her shoulders off. Now, later on, it's revealed that this person is actually an Instagram influencer. Now, that's a new trade that has come into practice these days, and all of us know about what is going on with the editor of Republic TV in the TRP uh, enhancement case. So there are people at the back of this business also. So social media helps Maya also to come out of that state of mind, which is goading her to go and commit suicide, because she posts a photograph with this boy, and instantly she gets 300 likes in 30 minutes. So that has worked wonderfully well, and it's something positive of the social media, one must say. But then what happens? It must be said to Richa's credit that her imaginative craftswomanship, I'm saying, in infusing the story with surprising twists and turns, makes the book a page turner. Let's look at the craft now. Now, this very story, I'm taking a bit of your time. It has a very wavy kind of structure that keeps the reader on tenterhooks. There's the exposition beginning, where we begin with Maya's frustrated state of mind. Death is on her mind. Then there is a coincidence, destiny, meeting with the mole, Instagram image bringing in so many likes. And then after that, there is a different track that develops. She has interest now in social media. Narcissism takes over her. Next is the stream of consciousness, stream of thought. On at least 3-4 pages, she explores the mind as a trained psychologist. I don't know whether by profession she's a psychologist or not. No, certainly she's not. She just told us she was actually in radiology. But this radiology has gone to the extent of probing the goings on in the mind also. So perfect psychologist's case, I should say. Now, she reviews the life since college days, goes into past, flashback. There is social antipathy for black color, she notes. Mother had been always goading her to do this or that. And then there was a friend, Nafisa, very tall and beautiful girl who was a little treacherous towards her. College days, marriageable age, anxiety, etc., etc. Rejection by the groom, would be groom, who didn't actually become the groom, and then she developed suicide wish. Now come to present. Instagram image, all right, favorable comments. She postpones the idea of death. Then story proceeds from mental to the physical world, and over time she becomes addicted to Instagram, and she prepares the regimen, rigmarole, posting slimmer and beautiful photographs, beautifying it with the help of those applications. Is actually faking life. She even fakes love, even fakes love. But all that helps to get her advertisements on the channel. All is going very well. She's become a social celebrity. I can't help, quoting once again from this particular story. I'll not be going so deep into any other story, rest assured. Now, in this state of mind where she has become a social celebrity, Maya became delusional, utterly oblivious of the monstrous effects social media addiction was having on her. She started to believe that she looked just like the person in her social media photos. She had thousands of friends and followers on the internet, but none in reality. That is to be marked. Indeed, none of the social media friends knew what Maya was in real life. So after that, Maya's mother says, I know I am to blame to an extent for your downfall in the past, but right now, mother tries to wean her away from this addiction, but she doesn't agree. And what does she say? She says, well, you think I'll come to you as per your convenience. I'm happy in what I'm doing and wouldn't stop over ever. The kind of love I'm getting from my people is far above your fake motherly concern. Mother becomes fake for her. And I have made rupees 53.5 lakhs from my social media in the short span of 2 years. Can you believe it? So this is what actually goes to her head. And then the writer also keeps on probing her mind side by side. She's cut off from real life, we know. And finally, there's a turn in the story. And from here, conflict starts because her mother meets an accident. And while she's attending the funeral, Please excuse me a minute. There's a lot of noise from my end. I must check my grandson here. Yeah. So, friends, we are talking of this. So there's a turn in the story and conflict in the mind. She's attending the funeral of her mother, and 300 followers are lost. Now there's conflict in the mind because she has lost so many followers, and there's fear of missing out. FOMO, the current term, a term that is very, very popular with young people. Now, next is, of course, she counters conflict. What does she try to do? She posts more fake images, sad images with the news of mother's death. Gets 500 responses. It seemed that her mother had died on social media yet again. She notes, wonderful sentence, compliments for each other. And there's the climax now. She discovers from among 988 messages, there is one from Tejas, and the name strikes a chord in her. Why? Because this is the name of the person who was driving the car which hit her mother and killed her. Tejas. She checks it out. It's reality. Now starts the anticlimax, and denouement. She pledges to quit faking her obsessive compulsive disorder. And now she becomes an advisor to people, cautions people to handle this new technology with care. That is the message. As I said, friends, each one of these stories is a wonderful message, which is very, very contemporaneous, very, very relevant for our times, particularly for the young people. And of course, for the older generation also, because there are stories like those kinds of women in case in which we have four generations of women giving the same kind of story, and to which Professor Vidushi also has referred just now. So that thing has not yet gone away. Harassment of women in workplace, on the street, anywhere. So that must stop. That is the message to the older generation as well. Then there is the ongoing corona pandemic also, and we have just heard from Dr. Vidushi about the story, the end of the Carpe Diem, which is like she has gone into future. Writer has now jumped onto future, and she's giving kind of writing an epistle, a kind of what we say time capsule. It reminds me of Indira Gandhi's days when time capsule was lowered into Red Fort area, which was to be dug out many, many years later. So anyway, so this is a beautiful story again, and I mean it shows the stylistic variations. There is a racy narrative, no doubt about it, and many stories have conventional opening also, like exposition and so on and so forth. But there are others that used, for example, first person narrative, and there are different registers. You can the writer jumps from present to past to future. And then she also capitalizes on the current craze for magic realism. There's a story, Superwoman, if you read it. It shows a woman who was blessed with a girl who was blessed with some strange powers. She can make the time stop and let her take quick action to set things right. And I mean, you'll love this story, really. The language is delightful, unpretentious, as Dr. Vidushi said. It's a mix of colloquial and literary languages. I don't know how exactly Richard Dhawan came to possess such a wonderful, uh, you know, grasp on this literary style. Really compliments to you. Hats off to you. Some of the witty lines which I've noted, just like there is some this phrase: a compromised cup of non-gourmand made out of a pod espresso. Wonderful phrase. When she is eating a bar of chocolate, sharing is not caring. Another, keep following the pop culture to keep up with the Kardashians, not with the Jonas's. Kardashian is actually the current craze. Kardashian systems, I believe. She found the one guy, but not the one langa to get married. So, friends, these are some of the nuggets that I've selected, and there's a lot more to it. I'm so thankful to all of you, particularly to Dr. Jayashree for giving me this chance. And my congratulations to Richard Dhawan for coming out with such a beautiful book. And I can see she has a great future as a writer. And this book is really going to project her as a celebrity. Thank you so much.
What a lively and brilliant introduction to the book. When Professor Batra was talking about unconventional queer titles of the books, I was reminded of a book, of a novel that I have with me. The title of that novel is MBA. I was, there's some kind of a contradiction. Like in this book, some people thought that this book relates to eating food. I can't make round foods. Similarly, the title of the book is MBA, but when I went into the details, it meant MBA, married but available. So this was the one thing. And secondly, Richa, should she feel flattered that she has very rich audience today. I find faces from Singapore, Australia, England, and USA. So congrats, Richa, on your achievement. And now we have Richa addressing us, talking about her life and her book, her new book. They have been saying Richa Dhawan. I would say Dr. Richa Dhawan.
I can't thank enough Dr. Batra, Dr. Vidushi, Dr. Dhawan. Everyone has spoken so much, especially Dr. Batra. While he was reading out and while he was mentioning my writing, it just seemed that maybe I'm better than what I think I am, because he has given me the kind of motivation and encouragement which a new writer needs. So thank you, Dr. Batra, for your beautiful intro and review of the book. And thank you everyone for being here today, and for letting me have this honor. I must say that the response has been overwhelming, and everything seems a little bit surreal at the moment. So without any further ado, I'll just get into my talk. So it's been a great privilege to write, and now today to talk to you all about my creative writing. I will be talking about my book, No, I Can't Make Round Rotis. So here's the book, and which is being launched today on this important international webinar. I would like to thank Dr. Jayashree for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. No, I Can't Make Round Rotis is a collection of 13 short stories that depict the trials and tribulations of women living in urban India. Since this is a virtual session, I'm sharing with you how the actual book looks like. I already shared that. So in this session, I will be sharing my journey that led me to the writing of this book. I would like to begin quoting a small stanza from one of my poems. And while taking my life as a cautionary tale, I still am not a martyr of my own ignorance. I feel happy, finally, to know that I should now live for and chase all the right things. I won't be waiting for life to happen and then realize what happened was life. In brief, I realized that I should not waste time just in worldly pursuits and devote myself to something that is at the core of my heart. And that something was writing. So now I'll just get into a bit about my personal journey of, as you all are saying, how I became a writer. So I'll begin from earlier. So I spent my early childhood in Delhi, and then I moved to Sydney, where I completed my higher education from the University of Sydney. Australia offered me a wonderful world. which was full of joy, it was full of beauty, and hence I decided to call it home. My married life to an IT professional was based on love, respect, and mutual trust. My two children, a son and a daughter, were a source of immense strength and confidence. I would share with them toys, games, and artwork. However, what they enjoyed the most was the stories I would tell them. They were so fascinated in listening to the story to this every night that they wanted more and more of these. It is indeed my children who shaped me into a storyteller. While living in Australia, I started pursuing my passion by writing small pieces of fiction. I participated in a number of story writing competitions and won some recognition from the literary community over there. Now let's get into the book, the actual reason we are here. So this book is it was written over a span of around 2 to 3 years, and most of the 13 stories stem from my experiences as a woman and a worldwide traveler. The stories are essentially women-centric, as these throw light on the changing position of Indian women in the present times. Now, I've heard a lot about the title being controversial, so I'll just shed some light on the title. So the title is metaphorical. However, it isn't rhetorical. In Indian society, it was common in the olden days, I would say, like many, many years ago. It was common for nagging husbands to demand from their wives something not easily available. This is how they find fault with them. But in the present times, the scenario has changed. And thankfully it has, but it has changed. A wife is not docile anymore. She is her own person and has her own identity. She would boldly retort, "I can't make round rotis," which in other words mean, "Sorry, I cannot dance to your tunes. I am not at your beck and call." So although this book is a collection of stories with women protagonists, these tales are not limited by gender. It could have been about men too. My purpose is not to bring attention to the misery of being a woman, but it is also about using the theme to tell tales that people and places that I encountered in my life. Having said that, the reason for picking a female protagonist in every story is because there is an element of truth in all of them. And that element of truth comes from my life, what I have experienced or witnessed, and I'm a woman, so it was just kind of obvious writing them. For me, it was just there was no other way that I would write these stories. So how do I perceive the position of Indian women today? Well, yes, I am a wife. I am a mother of two. I am a strong believer of family values, and I can do it all for my family. However, to date, I can't make round rotis. Well, I believe a woman has her own identity. She need not accept everything lying down. The 13 stories in the book have been around us for a long time, but they were not as realistic as they are today. The tone and texture of these stories has changed with the changing times. For example, I'm sure people who have little children would know what I'm talking about. I remember watching the animated movie Aladdin as a child myself. So in the animated movie, which was released in the early 90s, Princess Jasmine's father, or the Sultan, has to change the law. So the law is that a princess is not allowed to marry a non-prince because because the Sultan has no successor to the throne. However, in the new version of Aladdin, which was released a couple of years ago, which I recently watched with my children, Princess Jasmine is fighting for the right to be the queen. And in the end, she does get what she wants. She needs no special law to marry Aladdin. She becomes the rightful queen. So many readers ask me what triggered my interest in creative writing. So the answer is that I have always loved reading. My most cherished memories are of the times while I wrote essays, speeches, debates, and poetry in school. I was in love with it all. I grew up reading The Jungle Book, Agatha Christie, and every kind of book that caught my eye. I loved reading Oliver Twist, and I wondered how Rudyard Kipling, Charles Dickens, and Rabindranath Tagore would have looked like while they were really putting their words on paper with pen. So I used to picturize them while I was a child. I was the kind of student who finished reading her literature books on the day they arrived. I had naturally sent this precedent where I must extract the meaning of my textbook poems the day they arrived, and then wait for the moment of truth in class. I could only calm my trepidation after the teacher explained the meaning with the same context as I came to understand. Reading prose and poetry triggered my interest in writing. It appeared like a superpower at the time. It still does. So one fine day, I wrote my first story, Nimbu Pani, after which I felt euphoric while I typed the words on my laptop, and even after I put the end at the end of the story. It was nirvana, euphoria. A few days passed and I had finished another one, and the rest is history. No, I Can't Make Round Rotis is my first formal publication at this scale. I want to share with you how some of the stories in this collection came to being and how they have an element of truth in them. So during my teen years, I have heavily engaged in community service at school. The idea of the story Paradigm Shift originated from my experience of visiting orphanages and slums every other week. I can still remember the day when I asked my teacher as to why only the 2 children were older and the rest were babies. The kids who were at the orphanage, only 2 of them were older and the rest were just babies. So I was quite surprised, and I didn't know why as a child. So I clearly remember the answer that my teacher gave me. Richa, the truth is not always pleasant. One of the 2 older kids is disabled, and the other one has a huge birthmark on her face. Nobody wants to adopt them. People want children with no side issues. They just want clean, good-looking children. People who, not all of them, but yeah, many of them. So while I believed in benevolence of people who adopted the orphans, I realized the bitter and yet coexistent bigoted process of elimination. The story Footprints is inspired by carbon footprint, a term often used to measure our impact in the environment. In this story, my central character, Amal, is oblivious to the negative impact on the environment. Ironically, she teaches environmental science in school, and she still doesn't realize what she's leaving behind for the environment. Nadia, her sister, tries to convince Amal to do her part and save Mother Nature. It again comes from my community service community services environmental lessons. We all felt as kids, all of us doing community service together, all of us felt that there's nothing that we can do to save the earth, and whatever we did is not going to stop global warming. So I've expressed those sentiments through Amal in the story on page 139. So I'm just going to read a paragraph from my story. Page 139. The second paragraph from the bottom, where Amal tells her sister, Nadia, get a life. There are more important things than just saving the environment. I'm not going to compromise my quality of life for an insignificant drop in the bucket. I'm doing my best already. Just a second, my computer needs a bit of needs battery. Battery is finishing. Just give me a second, please. So yeah, okay. So then one day, so just we felt exactly the same what Amal is feeling over here. So then one day we took part in a plantation drive by school. Me as a child. Now we are coming back to reality. As a child, so we took part in a plantation drive in the environmental lessons. So where we went to the we just walked across the street to the Red Fort, and behind the Red Fort we planted some trees, and that was the day that I realized that no, we can do our part to save the environment, to do something. So something flipped inside me, and I changed my perspective forever. That was the day I ended my complacency towards conservation. So while writing the story, I'm sure we all know who Greta Thunberg is. So while writing the story, I imagined Greta Thunberg in place of Nadia, and just imagine what she would be telling her sister if she had a chance. So that's how I developed the plot of that story. So although my earlier writing was limited to the experience I had as a young adult, the stories continued to build up. I didn't write as much for my time in between, but I collected stories. My move to Sydney meant that I met a lot of new people from diverse backgrounds. Some of these later became my characters, and to really understand their stories, I had to become more of a listener than a storyteller. I learned how to patiently listen and create memories about interesting situations, especially those who had migrated to a new country, leaving their roots behind. I learned new ways to decipher a person's state of mind through their appearance. For example, in my first story, Nimbu Pani, so going to page 15, I'm just going to read another paragraph. So just the second paragraph. As Rina got a few steps closer, she saw the woman was dressed elegantly. She wore a beautiful coat which looked royal and expensive. Her makeup was flawless, and she had let her beautiful long black hair down. Her black quilted handbag with shiny stitches made Rina feel a little bit intimidated because she had seen the same bag on the cover of a magazine a couple of days ago. Observing with intent, Rina was in awe of the lady's beautiful dark brown ankle-length boots with golden zippers. But her most striking feature was her blood red lipstick. Rina always wondered how people gathered the courage to wear something so bold. In Rina's head, wearing red lipstick was equivalent to wearing a bikini, where both the actions required a lot of confidence and guts. So with this, I've just tried to compare the mindset of both the characters while they are sitting at a train station in suburban Sydney. So so I have talked about the gender roles and described my character Rina's demeanor with the way she looked through Nitya's eyes. Sorry, I think I switched the names. So I have explained Nitya through the eyes of Rina. So Australia's vast spaces and landscape has indeed broadened my perspective of life. The welcoming and friendly culture of the country exposed my mind to new experiences, and I stopped hesitating to explore. My curiosity meant that I would often talk to random people and wander off to random places and discover new ideas. I spent 2 years at the University of Sydney for my postgraduate degree in radiation therapy. Like I said, it's a branch of cancer treatment. Some of the stories have been inspired by looking closely at terminally ill patients and how their perspective of life changes when they are faced with grim reality. When I embarked on the journey of cancer treatment, I expected a lot of darkness and grief, but I was pleasantly surprised. The power of human resilience, The motivation to live would keep my patients powerful and determined. It was exceptional. One of my stories, Love is Love, is based on the theme of LGBTQ. So I remember the day when my husband and I went over to watch the Mardi Gras, which is the annual LGBTQ parade in Sydney. So I clearly remember that one of the trucks which were just passing through, one of the trucks represented India. And although people were dressed with sequenced, shiny blue jackets, and they were dancing to the tunes of a Bollywood song, Nach Baliye, if you remember. So they were dancing to the tune of that song, but there were so many banners on the truck which said, "Wake up, India." So that stayed with me for a long time. And then there was a referendum to allow same-sex marriage in Australia in the year 2017. And that is when I realized that since many people have to fight for something as normal as marriage, so it's because of the conscious or subconscious development of our brain, which picturizes a man and woman dancing to the tunes of a Bollywood number if we think of romance. So that is something I wanted to challenge with the story. So that's why I wrote something like this. So in the story, Love is Love. So, page number 198, last paragraph. So this is after a girl realizes that another girl that she liked has accepted her emotions and is about to proceed with the relationship. That morning run was the happiest run for Deepshikha ever. She was talking to the flowers on her way. She was singing with the birds. She was jumping with the children running around. She was full of the joys of spring. She listened to her favorite songs and even danced a while without feeling constrained or even embarrassed in the park with her earphones on. She played Antakshari with a gang of housewives who had come for their morning walk and sang all happy songs. Love is Love is a cliche romance with nothing different, except it is between two girls. I did this on purpose to represent the normalcy of such a relationship. Then another one of my stories that Dr. Batra spoke in detail about, follow me on Instagram, is inspired by the ill effects of social media. In today's world, many of us rely on social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, and Instagram to find each other and to connect. While each one has its benefits, it's important to remember that it can never be a replacement for real-world human connection. It requires in-person contact with others to trigger the hormones that elevate stress and make you feel happier, healthier, and more positive. Spending too much time engaging with the social media can actually make you feel more lonely and isolated, and exacerbate mental health problems such as anxiety and depression. Sorry, I'm feeling my throat is quite dry, but yeah, I'll continue. So I just wanted to read an excerpt from Follow Me on Instagram, which is the story of Maya, as Dr. Batra has very nicely explained. So how she came to the realization. Yeah. So I'll just read from page 35. Maya always considered herself unlucky and flawed in many ways. She thought of herself as short enough to be called names, dark enough to get fairness advice from everyone on the go, and fat enough to be invisible to guys. All three are said to be fundamentals of a woman's beauty in the eyes of beholders, more so in contemporary Indian society. The colloquial slangs such as moti, kali, and choti have been so much in circulation that they come out of people's mouth in the most secure settings. For example, siblings call each other with such names, or fairness creams for both, and women are high-selling products into the market since the beginning of time. Believe it or not, even newborn babies get to be judged on a scale of whiteness or blackness from 0 to 10. From the photoshopped waistlines to the superiority of fairer skin tones in life to the evolution of heels, things got so out of control that it took the basic humanity out of the pool. Maya wasn't the only one who faced the music. But for Maya, no matter how hard she refused to be cowed down and tried to fight these demons in her mind valiantly because of her incredible insight and sharp intellect, it was difficult for her to deal with how she thought others perceived her. She ultimately gave up. Getting bullied over her physical appearance was not unusual for Maya at every age, front, and platform. At the tender age of 10, Maya's mother tried to help her friendless daughter in every possible way. She organized playdates with a couple of people who had children of a similar age group. Every time Maya would end up acting out in the presence of other parents and children on being called a lazy cow or a fatso or an ugly panda. So then this all triggered Maya to take the wrong steps. Another theme that I've addressed, the sexual harassment of women, which is the saddening reality that we as a society still have not overcome. Two stories are related to this theme, Those Kinds of Girl and Superwoman. I have tried to twist them in a direction which shows the victims extracting revenge in some kind. And in the end, I've tried to make the victims as in a heroic manner. I've tried to portray them in a heroic manner in the end, although nothing can reciprocate what has been done to them. So now, while the book was taking shape, COVID happened, and I wrote my last story for the book, The End of Carpe Diem. The story is about the reality of how our lives changed during the 2020 coronavirus lockdown. One of the words that defined 2020 is pandemic. It literally means affecting everyone. Coronavirus has changed all aspects of our lives, and it has led to surprising discoveries. Faced with a pending lockdown, people started to buy in bulk, with one of the most cherished items being toilet paper. COVID-19 threatens our health, isolates us from family and friends, puts a strain on our jobs. These challenges are felt globally, but so too are the moments of hope, compassion, solidarity, initiative. The End of Carpe Diem is one such story of hope and compassion. Because of this underlying truth in every story, I believe that many of you will be able to relate to them. These stories show the way I perceived some important issues around the world during the course of my life. These issues include work-life balance, social media, addiction, superstition, beauty standards, homosexuality, adoption, global warming, sexual abuse, and last but not the least, COVID-19. Round Rotis is my first published work. I am overwhelmed with the response, as I said. Hopefully all of you will enjoy reading it. It is available on Amazon and Flipkart if you would like to get a copy for yourself. And with that note, I'm just going to wind up and say that thank you so much for having me here and letting me introduce my book to you all. And now I'm just going to give the baton to the next person. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Richa, for a good beginning, a great beginning. They say that I would definitely agree with you, Richa, that creating something is a powerful form of self-expression. The inspiration to create can be found anywhere. It can be found in the beauty of nature, as you said about Australia, in human relationships, or in sadness. That is within you. When we allow the creative side of our brains to take shape, something great will emerge. This is a natural ability, creative urge that makes you write. I'm reminded of Alexander Pope, the great 18th century poet who wrote The Rape of Lock. He had intuitive power to write poetry. And even when he was in his school, all the time he was writing poetry. And when his father came to know that he was so much obsessed with poetry, with writing verses, he scolded him very often. And then corporal punishment was very popular, as it is still in India, the parents beating their children. So Alexander's father, once when he was writing poetry, started beating him. And Pope, unconsciously, he said when he was getting the beating, Papa, Papa, pity take. Verses I will never make. So even in his appeal, he was poetic. This is something very natural, inborn. There's creativity inside us. So this is about your book, and I'm also reminded of the yesterday I talked about Indo-German literary interaction. I talked about certain writers who have in Germany Indians or Indian origin or German origin who have contributed to literature. Unfortunately, we don't have any eminent Indian writer in Australia, especially women writer. We have some important writers like they are from Sri Lanka, like Jani Lokuge and Yasmin Gunratne. Uh, they are South Asians, but they have made a mark. Yasmin Gunratne teaches at Macquarie University, Sydney, and Jani Lokuge teaches in Melbourne. So both of them have written novels. A Change of Skies and If a Moon Smiles. These are very popular novels. But we have nothing, not even from a male writer, anything from Australia. I've been to Australia a good number of times. And in 1991, I was invited by Melbourne University for a syllabus committee meeting where I was to play my role as an expert to introduce something Indian. And there I spoke about Anita Desai and some other writers. There's a full paper on Indian writing. But there was no writer from Australia which could be a part of the syllabus. Hopefully now, because we had one writer, Meena Abdullah from Australia, but she wrote in mid 20th century, 1950s. At that point of time, till 1980s, there were no Asians in Australia because of the white policy of the government of Australia. They would not allow colored people to get settled in Australia. It was only in 1980s when they adopted the policy of multiculturalism, and many uh, South Asians, Sri Lankans, Indians, and Pakistanis, they migrated to Australia. And now we have about 4 lakh people from India settled in Australia, and they constitute a very strong diaspora over there. And one of them is Richa Dhawan, and I'm sure in the years to come, she will write more novels, more short story collections, and be one of the literary stars of Indo-Australian scenario. Uh, I would also like to, I think we have another speaker, young scholar Priyanka would be responding to the book, No, I Can't. So may I request Priyanka to make our presentation. Is Priyanka there?
Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Priyanka. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, you're audible.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Priyanka. I'm a postgraduate English department scholar. I would first like to begin with thanking Jashri ma'am. I would like to extend my profound gratitude to her for providing me a platform in front of such esteemed guests, and I can talk in front of such honorable people. Our chairperson, Vidushi Sharma ma'am, Honorable Jagdish Batra sir, Honorable R.K. Dhawan sir, and Richa Dhawan ma'am, whose book I'm going to be talking about. I felt that Richa ma'am, though she has been living in Australia for quite some time, she has still imbibed with her roots. She's still attached to her roots. She's not detached herself, and this can be seen in her writing as the use of words, phrases, the events that she's mentioned. It all shows her stories to be. It presents her stories to be quite relatable, and the language quite conventional. I read the book and I felt the book focuses on women and their experiences in the society. It explores the relationship, sexuality, female bodies, female fears, and it also brings about very beautifully brings about the flaws and the stigmas of the society towards women, which prevail from ages. And I would highlight it highlights that there is patriarchy. The theme mainly is patriarchy, which even exists now. Like the female protagonist, one of the female protagonists, Neha, from the story Those Kind of Girls. She mentions mentions about her brother. My brother was the prince of the house. He got all the freedom and all the perks. He didn't have to look presentable or was not allowed to enter the kitchen 5 days a month. Not that he was expected to cook or clean or wash anything. This is my fate. So this is how, like, I think she's presenting patriarchy through her stories. And as it is a recent study, has found that major factors that result in the stigmatization of LGBT people is parental reaction towards homosexuality. And even if they accept them in the family, only they agree to behave as heterosexuals. And this factor of behavior is very well explained by Richa ma'am in the book. In one of the stories, that is even in Love is Love, and in one more story, Happily Married, and such stories. So I think she's bringing out this theme also very well. Today, when we see the social media we do see the social media benefits, but very beautifully she brings out the drawbacks of social media platform, how it adds to the need for women to look good and to fake their lives, to the extent that Maya, one of the protagonists, she googles how to create a make believe boyfriend for Instagram purposes. And this is like the height to which we fake life on Instagram and fake life on social media, in fact. So, and one more theme that dragged my attention towards it majorly was how each and every story of the whole collection, and each and every problem of each and every female protagonist in the story, it ended with the help of another woman in the story. That it represents the female solidarity. How I think this book also acts as an eye opener, as it gives more clarity to the meaning of suppression. As suppression just does not mean physical or mental abuse, but it also means demeaning the very existence of women as an individual. So today, though we speak of equality, the change I merely see is in the not in reference or in words, but rather than in action. So I actually began reading this book in order to participate in the webinar, but somehow I found this book so interesting as I read story after story that I couldn't find any reason to not find time enough to read it. And I love the book, in fact. And the book is not limited to like only women or girls or any kind of such gender or something. It stretches its limits to the entire humanity. Like it really would help everybody. And it makes us realize how important it is to raise our children in a different way, both our daughters and sons. Being a mother myself, I too believe in it. How we need to sensitize them about the meaning of gender inequality, I think. And even a women today, if given a choice, they should choose a path which leads to their own freedom and to the freedom for the entire womanhood. So it also depends on our own choices today. As a reader, I think this book should be read by more and more people, so that they could add to the efforts to bring about a change, in making it a fairer, creating a fairer world for everyone around. And I think the heading of the book, the title, "No, I Can't Make Round Rotis," according to me, I think it tells how it gives a voice to the latent rebellion of womanhood against patriarchy. This is my interpretation of the book, of the heading especially. And I would like to say that how I would like to quote Richa ma'am when she says, "Being a woman is still not easy in 2020." I wholly agree with her. And I love the way in the epistle to her children she's written. I think I would want to do the same, and narrating to them the whole year, the pandemic year of 2020, telling them about the chaos and everything, and even a similar way trying to tell them how in a wholly different way it was challenging for the mothers. As a mother, I know how it feels and how it comes out to be. So I think I love the book, and I congratulate ma'am, and I'm sure it's going to do really well, and I would want more and more readers to read this book. It is wonderful. It was lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. You've made me really happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priyanka, for a very insightful response to the book.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And we move on to the next item of the program, that is question answers. I hope Richa is ready with the answers. Anyway, so we welcome questions from the participants and all those audience who have been watching this program. Let's have the first question. Yeah. When you put a question, please give your name and the city you belong to. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Priyanka, and I am based out of Delhi. And first, Richard, I'd like to congratulate you on your book. And I think I could so relate to it because it talks about modern women. And I was just going through this particular story, which is Paradigm Shift. And how on page number 67, it clearly talks about your impeccable description of the diamonds for Sam, and that caught my eye. Your detailing of every character is so good, and I could so relate to it because you seem to be a very observant person. My question around that would be, Richard, that does this book cater to women across boundaries and countries, or was it largely based in the Indian context, keeping that in mind? So I wanted a clarity around that because you've mentioned women across generations, but is it across boundaries as well?
First of all, thank you so much, Priyanka, for the compliment first. I'm so happy to see everyone being able to. I've been able to convey the message which I aimed to with the book. And now to come to your question, definitely, it seems that the problems are only of Indian women, but that is not true at all. Since I've lived in Australia for a long time, I can talk about the Australian issues while watching Australian television, the advertisements, and just interacting with people on a daily basis. I have come across a few prominent issues, and for example, domestic violence. We think that we might think that it doesn't exist, but it does. The statistics show that one woman is killed every week in Australia because of domestic violence. Then another issue is the societal roles. So if you think that although Australian women are not primarily making rotis, but they are still playing the role of the primary carer for their kids, for example. So it's the norm is for mostly the norm is for women to stay at home and take care of the children while men work. I haven't seen a lot of examples of the other way around. I have seen, but they're not as much as there should have been. So I've spoken to many people, many women that I know who have given up on their dreams because they had to be available for their children, for example. Then another issue that I've raised, for example, in the story "Follow Me" on Instagram, where Maya wants to commit suicide because of society not calling her beautiful enough. Mental health issues are very prominent in Australia. I mainly came to know about them when I was visiting clinics. There were flyers and brochures of mental health. It starts from teenagers, and it even exists in the elderly. They are quite prominent in Australia as well. I've seen a few cases of the postnatal depression, which have taken really bad turns as well in Australia. So and even the other issue like sexual harassment and everything, it exists, but maybe it is too subtle that it doesn't come into the limelight as it does in India. So that's it.
Yeah, that answers pretty much my question. And I kind of agree with you that I think mental health issue awareness is coming up. Not so much in India, but I'm sure in Australia. So would we be seeing another book probably on mental health? Part 2 to No, I Can't Make Round and Perfect Rotis, maybe?
Well, my second book, I'm working on my second book at the moment, expecting to get it out in a few months. But it is not about any of the issues. It is a lighter novel, kind of romantic story that I've been working on. So yeah.
Okay, that's a fresh breath in the pandemic time. So some romance coming our way. Great. Thank you so much, Richa, and congratulations once again on your book.
Thanks, Priyanka. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka, for a very good question. Can we have another?
Welcome.
These are interesting, a very meaningful bunch of stories. We ought to have more questions from the audience. Any other question?
So may I ask a question?
You're most welcome, please.
First, I would like to congratulate and compliment upon the skillful forte that the debutant novel I Can't Make Rotis has brought to us of Mita Rasdhawan. I would like to add a question here to Richa. Richa, when the story about the character Maya was being interpreted by Professor Jagdish Batra, and even you have also brought it to the notice, that story of the character Maya. I would like to ask here a question: that do you think somewhere in all womanly home affairs and kind of an intervention of a monstrous hybridity is also a cause of uh, falling into certain enigma uh, to understand or to contest her public space or personal space? Means some kind of technology monstrosity is also adding uh, into her understanding of her space, or is it giving her more space to realize herself?
Well, thank you so much for the question. The thing is that I do believe that excess of anything is bad, and when it comes to social media, less is more. Is what I feel as a person. So if but the way Maya's life was completely overtaken by social media and its effects, and she completely lost the touch of reality, and she even used her mother's death as a leverage to gain more followers on Instagram. So it was kind of taking the humanity out of her. I agree that it was social media in the first place that rescued her from suicide, but at the same time, a person has to know where to stop, where to put the put a stop. So there has to be a balance of everything in life. Too much social media is can't be good for anybody. It is definitely when on the one hand, where I would call it a monster, I would call it a savior for Maya. But on the other hand, because she did too much of it and she started faking everything, she became completely oblivious of reality. It became monstrous, kind of a Frankenstein situation for her. So that's you just have to have balance.
Yes, I congratulate you for demystifying lots of notions that women has to consider, because sometimes perspectives of culture, if they are leading to certain dynamic changes and pragmatically leading to some advanced profile, then you have to understand where the contestation would fall in, and where the contention of the society can lead to a fragmentation also of certain profile. So here also you have thrown a good light metaphorically in your stories. I really wish you good luck for your future prospects. Thank you. Professor Dhawan, please do continue.
Yeah. Are there some more questions? Anybody would like to put any question to Richa?
I will ask a question. This is Rajat, and I'm based out of London. Richa, my question to you is, what's your advice to other people who also have a day job, but want to be a creative writer? I mean, just being conscious of the fact that often people have been wanting to write a book or a novel or something similar, but have never had the courage to break away or dedicate enough time to do it properly. So, what's your advice to other people, including people like me?
Thank you so much, Rajat, for the question. Um, well, it is kind of a dilemma. You have to pick one. If you ask me, you have to pick one. Take a sabbatical, I would say. Because if you try to balance it out, I have tried in the past to be available with, for example, when my kids are on holidays, when they are at they don't go to school, and I don't get that thinking space of that continuous thinking space of many days, which I get while because when I start writing something, it takes me at least a couple of hours to write the first paragraph. It's after that first paragraph that the flow continues uh, pretty well. But if you think that you can take out 2 hours and sit down and try to write something, it never works for me. So if you ask me, then you have to devote a proper time if you want to create something of that sort. So that's my answer.
Thanks. That's very valuable advice, and congrats again for your debut book.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
We could have another couple of questions. Any more questions?
Sir, this is Priyanka again, and just out of curiosity, and I'm sorry for taking up time, but just a follow-up question to Rajat's a question that he just asked Richard. That so, where was the book majorly written? Was it in Delhi, in Australia, and Sydney, in Singapore? Because I know you've traveled places. So, just out of curiosity, where was it written majorly?
Okay, so I collected lots of ideas from Australia while I was living in Australia. That's when I collected lots of ideas. I made notes, some mental, some handwritten, some on my phone. So everywhere I go, I just collect notes all the time. And then as soon as I used to get a few hours, I just try to put them into words. So I went to India for a couple of months, and there was a lot of family support from my parents, my in-laws, and I used to get like I was answering Rajat that I need a stretch of the whole day to finish, something that's substantial. So that's when I brought those ideas to life. So this was before I moved to Singapore, but my kids are grown up a bit now, so I can get that time and space. So yeah.
I'm sure. Great amalgamation of thoughts. So great work there.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Priyanka. Thanks again.
So I take it that there are no more questions. We can come to a happy close. It's been a great session of question and answers. And before Dr. Jayashri takes over, I would like to thank today's speakers, Professor Jagdish Batra, and who initially gave a brilliant lecture, Dr. Vidushi Sharma, the chairperson of the session, Dr. Richa Dhawan, the protagonist of today's program. And we had Priyanka, young scholar, Priyanka Solanki, who gave an excellent response to the novel. And finally, the participants, like Priyanka Sodi, you're from India, Rajat from London, who else? Mamta Bali from Sydney, and uh, and I think there was one from the proceedings, and we come to close now. And we look forward to more such programs, and we look forward to more books from Richa. And um, organizer, he's been in touch with all the speakers, changing speakers, meeting the participants. She's great of her to have done all this. Over to Dr. Jayashri.
Uh, from the core of my heart and with all sincere gratitude to all the team that has come up on the board to initiate in the book launch session of Ms. Richa Dhawan. I really convey my thanks to all of you. Professor Batra, you have been really wonderful in giving us critical interpretation and appreciation of the book. No, I can't make rotis. Uh, but before I go further, I would like to focus my moderator. She's somewhere behind the scene to take the things to us, to the public forum, technically. I invite Samina Wagla. Please go further with the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Jayashree ma'am. First of all, I would like to congratulate Richa ma'am for writing such a wonderful book. Although I'm not a hardcore feminist or something by heart, but your book was so relatable, like comparing to the daily lives and the things like, psychologically, physically, emotionally, like all the covering up all the aspects of a woman or surrounding the life of a woman. So I was like really attached. I didn't get a chance to read your book so far, but after listening to everyone, I mean, I'm so curious to read the book now. And secondly, I personally relate a lot, and I have a attachment to the name Maya. I don't know, for maybe because of Anita Desai's novel or something. So yeah, it makes it more special to me. So thank you so much for presenting your book today, and giving us a chance to host your book launch ceremony. And secondly, I would like to thank Dr. Jagdish Batra and Dr. R.K. Dhawan, Priyanka ma'am for delivering such a beautiful appreciation, critical appreciation of the book and everything, and all the panel members present. And last but not the least, I would like to thank my favorite mentor, my guide. Matlab, I don't call her a research guide. Actually, she's more like a mother to me. So, Dr. Jaishi Singh, I really am thankful to you for giving me such an opportunity to be present here and, coordinate the entire event.
Hello.
So, thank you so much.
Hello. Hello.
Ma'am, your mic is unmute. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So, I would like to thank all of you. And that's it. Jaishi ma'am, now I'm putting you over.
Yeah. So I humbly give my submission to all with absolute delight and happiness that you have created with all your harmonious personalities as an alchemy of achieving persons in your own self. I really thank to all participants who really have shown a lot of curiosity with regard to not only registration, but I'm watching their compliments. They are giving a lot of uh, enthusiasm through their best of the best wishes to Miss Richa Dhawan to continue her future bright career in short fiction, because short fiction can only you bring you closer to public, street people, or public that moves on feet, or in public transportation, because they cannot afford to have long sittings to read big novels or popular selling books. So they only go for short fiction, because I remember that in America, when American Dream was in full swing, there was trend that short fiction could only unite American nation, and so the American nation, and it brought melting pot to multicultural society. So similarly, I mean, this Miss Richa Dhawan's book and other writings would bring at Australian region or continent such kind of melting pot to unite Indians and to draw more and more readers to her writings. Thank you all for being here. We would like to now wrap up our session. We were looking forward to see in other sessions if we organize. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Dr. Jayashree.
Thank
And
you
Dhawan
so
Saab, Dhawan
much.
Saab, now that this session is over, may I have a word with Rajat and Divya in London? Because I stayed with them, I remember, and after that, I never had talked with them. Rajat, are you there?
Yeah.
Hello, Uncle. Yes, of course,
Dr.
we're still here.
Jaishi,
Hi. Rajat,
Dr.
Divya,
Jaishi, keep up
how are
the
you?
sentiments.
How
Keep
are
up
you
the
doing?
sentiments. It was wonderful experience to participate, and we look forward to another webinar from your university. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. We are very much grateful for your support.
Thank you.
You really bugged up. Bugged up means bucked up. BUCK, bucked up.
Okay.
Thank you so
Rajat, Rajat and Divya, I still remember the days I stayed with you in London. How are you
Yes,
doing?
of course.
I hope it's all fine.
Yes, everything is fine, Uncle. We hope that everything is fine at your end too.
Yeah, how are the children?
Yeah, yeah, the
Doing
children are fine. I'm just thinking that maybe what I'll do is I'll get your phone number and I'll give you a call separately now.
Thank you so much, and my compliments to you. Your children must be carrying on with their mischiefs, I believe, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah, they are indeed.
Oh, no. Very fine. Thank you. See you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So, bye, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
You,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.